Hey guys, welcome back to Jay's Fifth Down Football Podcast. Again, your host Jay Gay, back with more football action here on our podcast. We're going to be previewing Browns and Steelers tomorrow on Thursday Night Football, and also recapping a little bit of Week 2 and how crazy that was. But if you saw our episode yesterday with Nick Winkler, we kind of went over that, but we'll go over that again. Into some of the games that really surprised me and what teams should be ready to hit the panic button after Week 2. Before we get into that, make sure you guys check us out here. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, everything here on the podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. That's where we're at. So please make sure you give us those ratings and subscribe here on the channel. First off, Week 2 was pretty crazy, and like I was telling Nick the other day, we had some really good comebacks, almost comeback for the Falcons, but a couple other teams came back. The Miami Dolphins were down 24-0, ended up beating the Baltimore Ravens 42-38, I believe it was. I mean, just craziness. I mean, that Tua had over 469 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 200 receiving yards. I mean, they were running wild through that secondary in Baltimore. Ravens lost to Miami last year, and they just figured out a way to contain Lamar, and they kind of shut them down. But this year was the Ravens thought they were going to be able to come back and beat the Dolphins, and be able to explode, and they were for the most part of the game. But the Miami just never quit, and they just found holes in the defense. They started to make some adjustments and get everybody involved, and Tua just went crazy in that second half, and they mounted a comeback and scored 42 points. And I think it's fair to say that the Dolphins are not playing around this year. You got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, those are your 3 top pass catchers on that Miami team, on that offense. And Mike McDaniel's going to do everything he can to get the ball to those guys. They're able to have, and if you double cover Tyreek Hill, well, Jalen Waddle's going to be one-on-one. He's going to win almost all of those matchups. You cover Waddle, Hill's going to be one. So it's just you got to pick your poison with that Miami Dolphins offense, and that's what makes them so lethal, so deadly. And then you add in Mike Gesicki, who was a very, very valuable pass catcher in his own right at the tight end position, maybe one of the more underrated tight ends in the league. And he's got that big frame. He's able to go up and get the football over most DBs and linebackers. So he's a mismatch in himself. So I think Mike McDaniel's got a lot of toys to play there with, with the Dolphins. And hopefully, for them, they can continue to sustain that success throughout the year. I don't think they're going 17-0 like the 1972 Dolphins, but I think they're going to win a lot of football games this year and surprise a lot of people. And their next game is against the Buffalo Bills, so in Buffalo. So that will be an interesting matchup between those two. You got like the best defense in the NFL going up against one of the more high-powered offenses in the NFL so far this year. So that'll be interesting to see how Sean McDermott and his staff, game plan for that Miami offense and vice versa, with Mike McDaniel and his staff game planning for that Bills offense with Stephon Diggs leading the way, and Josh Allen, of course, being Josh Allen, right? So, and obviously, and then the Jets came back as well. They were down to the Browns, they ended up beating them. I believe it was, I can't remember the exact score, but they ended up beating the Cleveland Browns. I think it was 30-28, and it was the Jets, they just kept fighting, and they ended up getting the win on the year. So very important for them, for that locker room, for the confidence, and they got that victory, and because Robert Saleh is a guy who's going to have his guys fight every game, and we learned that. Him and Dan Campbell with the Lions, those are, who we'll get to in a second, but those are 2 coaches who really going to have his guys fighting, and, no matter what the score, just keep playing football, keep playing hard, be physical, go run to the football, swarm. Those are the type of players that Robert Saleh loves, and that's what he's trying to build here in New York, and they came back and they beat the Browns, Cleveland Browns, who don't have Deshaun Watson. They won't have them till week 13 against the Texans. And, Jacoby Brissett, like, this is a guy who's been in the league for a couple years now. Well, going on some time, more than 6 years. He's started for teams before. Started for the Dolphins, the Colts, the Patriots for a short stint in time when Tom Brady was suspended. This is a guy who has experience. It's not like it's a bum quarterback back there. And the Browns were doing good, but, defense got complacent. They got conservative. They got lazy, and they let the Jets get back into the game. So it's 2 sides to that. Of course, the Jets still having the fight and grit in them to make the comeback, and then the Browns just not able to keep on going on what was sustaining them to lead, and that's their success throughout the game. So they got to look at the drawing board and look at that film and see what went wrong. And I can tell you this: a lot of Cleveland fans are not happy about that. They're like, the Jets, really? Me and Nick Winkler talked about it on the podcast the other day. Like, man, it's like there's no words to describe that comeback. I mean, you can't even say that's a loss if you're the Browns. I mean, when you lose to the Jets and you let them come back, that's not even a loss. That's an embarrassment. Maybe not. Maybe that's not even a strong enough word for it. But kudos to the Jets and Robert Saleh for getting the win. And Joe Flacco is somehow holding down the fort there until Zach Wilson comes back, and he is going to remain a starter until Wilson is back and 110%. For the Jets. So Joe was holding up in there. So, and then you had the Cardinals and the Raiders. This was a pretty good game. The Cardinals were down 23-0. They come back and beat Las Vegas in Las Vegas. You had Raiders fans popping champagne bottles like before when it was 23-0. And they were like, we're ready to go home. We're ready to celebrate this win. It's Vegas. The Raiders got the win and go out in the town and celebrate and have a good time. No, the Cardinals said no. We're going to be the ones celebrating out there in Las Vegas tonight. We're going to be having fun at the casinos tonight. We're going to come back and beat you. And they did. And Kyler Murray led a great comeback, and they beat the Las Vegas Raiders. And Cliff Kingsbury was impressed with how his team was resilient and the grit they showed, and they didn't give up, and which is something because in the week before against the Chiefs, they just looked out of whack, and the practice wasn't good that whole week, and they just weren't prepared. But week 2 they come out and didn't start off well, but they kept fighting and they got back into the game and they won it against Las Vegas. So the Cardinals are now 1-1 on the year, as well as the New York Jets. So it's going to be key for the Browns to get this win against the Steelers on Thursday night, which we'll get to here in a second. But I want to talk about the Detroit Lions. We got to start putting some respect on the Detroit Lions name. This is a team that's been bad historically for quite some time, and but they're in the last couple of years since Dan Campbell has been the head coach. They showed grit in most of their games. Even the games that they they weren't going to win, they kept fighting, and some of these were against good teams. And they stayed in the game, and they just end up losing. But just due to the talent disparity between them and the other team, but they're still finding ways to just claw back and just continue to fight back and play that hard-nosed physical football that Dan Campbell loves, right? He's the guy that's going to fire you up, and got those guys in the locker room under his wing, and they're on his side, and they respect him and his coaching staff, and they get their first win of the season against the Commanders at home, and pretty handily for the most part. Just the offense looked great. Amon-Ra St. Brown looked amazing. He's a guy in his second year. He's trying to establish a name for himself as one of the top receivers, maybe top 20 receivers in the NFL. He definitely wants to get there and maybe even slide into that top 10 list. It's going to take some time because there's a lot of great pass catchers out there, but he's a guy that I definitely think within the next couple of years, him, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, all those guys are going to be the top receiver. Cooper Kupp, of course, they're going to be the tops in the receivers list in the next couple of years. They're going to be the top guys in the NFL. Guys that quarterbacks want to throw the ball to. Like, hey, I want that guy on my team. I want to pass the ball to him. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has proven himself to be a very reliable pass catcher and weapon for this Detroit offense. And Jared Goff put it everywhere need to be for him, and he made the plays. He had 2 touchdowns in that game against the Commanders, and Washington falls to 1-1 on the year. So now you got Detroit 1-1, the Commanders 1-1, so this is sort of so far for the first 2 weeks of this season, it's been really interesting. These games have been really good, and I expect the same throughout week 3 as well. Most notably the Bucks and the Packers will be playing. That's Fox's game of the week, America's game of the week. 4:25 kickoff on Fox on Sunday between the Bucks and the Packers. Tampa Bay going to be without Mike Evans for that suspension because of the brawl down in the Bayou. in New Orleans against Marshawn Lattimore and some of those guys, and so he'll be suspended for one game and he won't play. But they're also dealing with some other injury issues. Chris Godwin is remaining. He's still kind of injured right now. I'm not sure he's going to play, but we'll update that for you as soon as we get more news. Julio Jones is injured as well. No surprise. And the Bucks end up signing Cole Beasley to the practice squad. So they have hopes that he'll be elevated to the roster very soon. That's what we're hearing. He's signed with Tampa Bay. So Tom Brady has been in contact with him. He's like, I like this guy. He's been a very reliable receiver throughout his career with the Cowboys and the Bills. So he gets a chance to add another pass catcher to that offense that included, Mike Evans and those guys who won't be playing. So it'll be interesting to see how the Tampa Bay offense attacks that Green Bay defense that held the Bears, pretty good. Even though the Chicago's offense is still growing and maturing, but the Packers held them pretty well in that win on Sunday Night Football. Ended up beating them 24-10, and Justin Fields just was running for his life. Pretty much same story. Packers pass rush was getting after them. They were playing physical and fast and, just the typical Green Bay defense. And Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing, as always. So it'll be interesting to see between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers who's going to win that matchup right there. And that defense versus that Tampa Bay offense, can they hold them? Is the lack of weapons for Tom Brady going to end up hurting them? Offensive line still dealing with injury issues as well. And the Packers on their side of things, offense, just still trying to get those receivers acclimated to that system, and I mean, losing Devontae Adams is never easy, and Rodgers knows that. He's been hearing it all offseason since they traded Devontae Adams to the Raiders. He's got to have guys that are going to step up and make plays. Who is it going to be? Allen Lazard? Is it going to be Equanimeous St. Brown? I'm sorry, no, he's not. He's with the Bears, actually. Is it going to be Christian Watson, the rookie out of North Dakota State? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Romeo Doubs? Who's going to step up for that Packers offense and be able to provide Aaron Rodgers with a solid target to go to the football with? So that'll be interesting to see. But I think I had the Bucks. Taking this game. I know it's Tom Brady. I can't count him out. I think he's going to find a way to win, even with his depleted receiver room. And they're going to run the football. They're going to try to drain that clock and, just play good defense and try to get out there with a win. So, and yeah, I believe that's going to be going in favor towards Tampa Bay. And Jimmy Garoppolo, now the starter again in San Francisco after the injury to Trey Lance. But if you guys didn't catch my podcast yesterday, Trey Lance had a successful surgery, so he's going to make a full rehab, and he'll be back for 2023. San Francisco just put him on IR, so he's done officially. As we all know, he's done for the year. Jimmy Garoppolo now going to take over this offense again. And my thing for the 49ers is do what you've been doing. Continue to make it's going to be tough. Have everybody try to stay healthy and stay afloat. Don't make turnovers. Just don't take the plays when they're there and continue to trust Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think the 49ers will be good. I think they're going to win a couple games this year. I think they're going to be possibly back in the playoff mix. A place where they were the last couple of seasons, since Shanahan has really taken over, except for a couple. But I think the 49ers are going to be a team to watch out for this year. They're a sleeper team. They got an experienced quarterback back there. Offensive line is going to play really well together. Defense is coming along. They're always good, and they got young playmakers stepping up for them. And the key is just the running game. You got to find some consistency there. Elijah Mitchell, he's had injury issues, and he's hurt again. So they're not going to have his services. So they're going to rely on Marlon Mack and some of those other guys from some rookies to step up there and lead the running game. So, and I think they're going to beat the Broncos. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think the Broncos are going to get the win, get on track after a very questionable 2 weeks of play, or is it going to be the 49ers get the win? They beat the Seahawks 27-7 pretty handily. So who's going to maintain the success, or the Broncos going to get their first win of the year? So that's going to be something to watch out for. All in all, and then the Browns and the Steelers, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, that you can only watch it on Amazon Prime. You can't watch it anywhere else. The NFL is doing this thing now where it's strictly Amazon Prime for all Thursday night football. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, you need to sign up for it. If you want to catch all the games on Thursday night football, Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels going to have the broadcast for that game. Browns has got to make a the Cleveland has got to get a win here. After you drop that game to the Jets on Sunday, you've got to come back with a good win. It's crucial. You can't afford to fall to 1-2 on the year. For the Steelers as well, you got to get after that loss to the Patriots. The offense looked very stagnant and it did not move very well. Mitchell Trubisky didn't look all that good either. So they got to come back out and they got to get something going offensively, maintain some consistency on the offensive end of the football field, and just continue to drive the football down the field and make those plays where they have to make it. And I like to see some more plays over the middle of the field for the Steelers. Not everything has to be outside the numbers, or one-on-one catch, throw it up there to Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson and want them to make a play. They got to establish some sort of rhythm offensively, and get Najee Harris going on the ground and get those guys going over the middle, get Pat Freiermuth involved more, and just maintain some balance to that offense. And I think the Steelers can come away with the win there if they do play good defense, as they always will. It's going to be tough without T.J. Watt, but they're going to have to make do and get after the quarterback, get after Jacoby Brissett, and for the Browns' case, run the football because you have one of the best running backs in the league. Use that play action very well, and just continue to not make mistakes. Don't make mistakes. Don't make big turnovers. And just try to and keep the game within your lead and try to maintain that lead throughout the game. You can't get lazy. You can't get complacent no matter who you're playing. A big thing in football in all sports is you cannot get lazy and complacent no matter who your opponent is. Nick Saban always says, I'm going to respect every opponent no matter who I play, whether it's Georgia one week or whether I'm playing, University of Louisiana Monroe or, whether I'm playing LSU or whether I'm playing Griffin State. I've got to, you've got to respect every opponent because any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday, anything can happen. The Falcons almost beat the Rams Sunday. Nobody expected that. They didn't, but they almost did. So that's just something that I think a lot of these coaches are trying to preach now, especially with these comebacks in week 2. It's just, you got to keep your foot on the gas for 4 quarters. It's a 60-minute game. You got to fight till the end, to the very end of the buzzer. And Josh McDaniels pointed that out in his presser after the blown lead against the Cardinals. He's like, it's a 4-quarter game. We got to play a full game of football. And if we don't, then you're going to lose. And that's just how it is in this league. That's how it is really in all sports. You just can never get complacent. You can't get conservative. And that's the big thing for a lot of teams is they're trying to find their identity right now. Buffalo knows who they are. They're the best team in the NFL right now, in my opinion. I don't see anybody beating them. I think they're unstoppable. They know who they are. They know what they want to do offensively. They know what they want to do defensively. They know how they want to have their team built around. And, it's Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs offensively, just killing you with that quick passing game and then shoot you over the middle with that deep shot, or defense, getting after the quarterback and just making your life hard that night. So that's what I see for the Bills offensively. But you got your teams that are probably going to need to hit that panic button this year. The Indianapolis Colts are 0-1-1 on the season. They have not won a game. They've tied with the Houston Texans week 1 of the season, and they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars most recently, 24-0. So for the Colts right now, you got to get a win. You can't afford to fall 0-3 on the year or 0-2-1 on the year. You can't afford to do that because you're in a spot now where everybody's expecting you to run the AFC. They're going to be this huge playoff contender, and everybody's saying this and that. They're going to run everybody over. Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, all these guys, And the Colts have not proved to me that they can be a playoff team so far. They have not proved to me at all. And it's only week 2 of the season, but it's only been week 2 of the season. We're about to go into week 3, but I'm not seeing any good things from the Indianapolis Colts. So Frank Reich has got to get his team together and get that defense together, get that offense together. And the Jaguars, 24-0, that's unacceptable if I'm the Colts. If I'm the fans, I'm embarrassed. If I'm the players, I'm embarrassed. If I'm the coaching staff, I'm embarrassed. I got to do a better job of preparing my guys throughout the week and developing a better game plan and making sure we find some consistency and have, guys just need to make plays. That's the big thing about it. I mean, who's going to go out there and make a play? Yeah, we got some injuries. Michael Pittman's hurt, but who's going to step up and who's going to make plays when we need them to make plays? Is the offensive line going to hold up in pass protection? Are they going to create holes for the run game? Is that defense going to be able to stop anybody? Those are the questions you have to ask. And as the players, you just got to take the responsibility and ownership and say, hey, we got to come back out better this week. We had a bad game, flush it, focus on what we got to do next week and get better. That's the big thing for me. But so far, for interesting first 2 weeks of the NFL. It's been crazy, and now we got Amazon Prime taking over Thursday Night Football, and that's weird. And let me ask you guys this, man. Let me know what you think about this. Is the NFL this changed to Amazon Prime for the Thursday night games? Is this cool? Do you guys like it? Is it hard to access? And let me know all your thoughts in the comments about that, because it's weird. It's something we're gonna have to get used to with all NFL money. It's money oriented and broadcast rights and things like that, and so it's now things are changing each and every year. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. But again, you can catch the Steelers and Browns on Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime tomorrow night. Kickoff starts at 8:20 p.m. Only on Amazon Prime. So if you don't have a membership, you've got to sign up today to get that. You'll be able to watch the game, unless you can find a live stream. But this has been Jay's Fifth Down, the Football Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, watching. We'll be here to recap Thursday night's matchup between the Browns and Steelers, as well as continue to provide updates going on into week 3, the rest of week 3 of the NFL season when it kicks off on Sunday. So thank you guys for watching. This has been Jay's Fifth Down.